Blessed are the change makers. Remember that? We refer, of course, to all well-meaning policymakers. Today, we pay homage to the man who brought us the minimum wage, Ian McCartney. In 1997, he was a trade and industry minister who was given the responsibility of taking the legislation through Parliament. And as he explains here, it was an issue very close to his heart.
£5.93 an hour. That's the current adult rate of the national minimum wage. When it was first introduced in the late 90s, it was £3.60 an hour. Now, that may not sound like much, but back then, the very idea that employers should have to pay a minimum amount to their staff was pretty controversial.
Up every morning just to keep a job. I have to work my way through the hustle and mob.
From cleaners to canteen workers, low pay was a way of life for many in the 90s.
All I want to do is be paid a decent hourly rate for the amount of hard work that I actually put into what I do.
Then, in 1997, a Labour minister who'd been a kitchen worker himself was given the job of changing that.
I couldn't believe my luck. It's like winning the pools. There was me, a former low-paid worker, suddenly be given the job to introduce a national minimum wage. So it was a crusade as far as I was concerned. I knew the subject backwards. I understood what it meant to be a low-paid worker.
And this was why.
I got sacked for asking for £1 a week extra to take account of the birth of my second child. And so it's very difficult, really, to be honest with you.
An emotional response from a man who'd fought for years to change perceptions about low pay, even getting people to dress up as fat cats outside firms critical of a national minimum wage. He also had to convince some unions that skilled workers wouldn't lose their bargaining power.
Well-off workers were being persuaded through their own union, but the propaganda, that their differentials, and they're very conservative, a small c, skilled workers at that time, so that they didn't want the minimum wage to undermine their negotiations. And so to be able to persuade well-paid workers to vote for low-paid workers, then we have to give them assurances.
He also had to make a good economic case at a time when Labour was working to make itself electable.
After 18 years in opposition, I think the leadership, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, wanted to ensure that there was no weaknesses that could be exploited.
What kind of opposition did you come up against when you were trying to get that bill through?
It was the longest uninterrupted session of any bill to go through Parliament. And the Conservative opposition were doing their job, by the way. Their job's to oppose. But I decided this was a delaying tactic too much, and I needed to get it through. Low-paid workers had waited long enough for a minimum wage.
It is because we have a Labour government that 2 million people will begin to be released from poverty pay.
The national minimum wage became law in 1998. The moment it was voted through is still etched in this former trade and industry minister's memory.
My feet were off the ground. I was getting carried through the lobbies. The place was packed with Labour MPs and people saying, this is what I come into politics to do. The atmosphere was unbelievable. There was absolute joy, overjoy and clapping and cheering. And I was getting passed between people out the door.
And how important was it for you to get that legislation through?
In government, you get lots of things to do. And sometimes you like doing them and sometimes it's not so interesting, put it that way. But this was really important to me. I'd have died in the ditch for the minimum wage.